Hello, my second attempt at making this video. I started once and it just sucked ass, so I decided I'm gonna try again. Just gonna be a sad rant, I suppose. That's all you're gonna get on this channel, I think. There is some pretense of some intellectualism. Like sometimes I throw in some big words, I throw in some literature, I throw in some philosophy, but at the end of the day I don't give a fuck. Like, you know, all that stuff is just icing on the cake, you know. It's those little glittery things that you put on cake, you know, those little I don't know what they are, those fritzy things, you know, those colorful little fritzy little things. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what they, you know, if they have a name, they look like how the word fritzy sounds. I don't know. The thing is that, you know, even if you build up a vocabulary, when push comes to shove and you have to use it, I don't remember shit. So even though I have built up a vocabulary in English, I can't fucking remember anything, you know, and that's why I prefer writing, you know. But of course, it's very hard to get anybody to read it. It's even hard to get people to watch it, especially when you don't know what the fuck you're gonna say, you know. So it's just gonna be a rant, a sad rant. So if you feel sad, depressed, alienated, all that kind of stuff, and you want to listen to somebody who might understand, I think this channel is for you. Look around, take a gander, because that's what you're gonna get here. Some of the videos are a little bit difficult. Like some of it has a pretense of intellectualism and I pretend to be smart, but don't fall for it. I'm just an idiot. I'm just an idiot in the forest. I'm a crazy guy in the forest. Nothing ever changes, right? And that's the one. I don't know if that's gonna be the theme, the through line, the motive of this video, but that's one depressing thought I've been having, is that nothing ever really changes. That when something does change in history, in society, or in just in your personal life, your interpersonal life, your personal life, or whatever, the changes are very insubstantial. They're very surface level changes. You might call them heuristics, you know. They're very ephemeral, I suppose that's the word. They're not fundamental, they're not cumulative, guaranteed, solid, a done deal, all that kind of stuff. They just changes like waves upon the surface of the sea, let's say. You know, I was mesmerized when I learned that waves are like, they're not really, the water is not really moving. Like, you know, when there's a wave and they're pushing out to the shore, like the water doesn't really move. Like the water is not going anywhere. It's the same, just, you know, like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm too stupid, but the water doesn't really go out. It's just it's just the top being moved in a certain direction, I think because of the wind or something like that. I don't fucking know. But the point is that the river, like, it doesn't really move. It doesn't really come out. You know what I mean? It just looks like it. At least when it comes to waves. Like when you have like a tsunami, that really moves. The shit really moves. Like, you know, the cars are really flipped over. It's not an illusion. The Japanese would know a thing or two about it. This is an interesting topic too, because there's some stories there. But the point is that The point is that, you know, when it comes to the waves, they don't really move. Like, water doesn't really come out. It's just something happening on the top. And so that's a very drawn out way of saying that nothing really ever changes. And that's what I've been thinking about, is that, you know, like let's say you think of history, and you say there's been progress made. And I don't want to draw this out because I've made this argument before in several of my videos, but I want to get in deeper, that, you know, it's that you might say that slavery has been abolished, and so in that sense we have progressed in history. But when you actually look at it, de facto, yeah, I think it just sounds like I'm saying fuck, but, you know, when you look at it in terms of the reality, not de jure, not, you know, I don't even know how to pronounce that, not by law, but by action, by reality, right? I'm really embarrassing myself in this. I'm sorry. No matter how much I learn, you know, I never remember anything. But yeah, by law, slavery is abolished. I don't think there's a single country in the world where it's legal. And yet, as far as I know, there's more slaves in the world than ever before. I think the number hovers around 50 million. And of course, they're not legal slaves, but, you know, indentured servitude, in the sense that, you know, the debt slaves, they are child slaves, I suppose, sex slaves. And so, you know, they get pushed into this precarious situation where they're basically slaves, and, you know, some international organizations will call them slaves, right? So that's what they mean by slave, not somebody who's literally like legally a slave. But that's one example, is that energy doesn't really disappear. That's a physics argument, right? Energy doesn't really disappear. It transforms, right? That's what I heard. I think that's the formulation, something like that. That, you know, if somebody dies, they move into the ground, but they don't disappear. They just become food for the soil, for the bugs, for the little critters. And so you don't really disappear. And if people have memories of you, then you don't disappear, because in that sense also, because your memories live on. The memories of you live on in their minds. The words that you said, the way you made them feel, like these videos might have. The person is always there. So that's one example of how, you know, nothing really changes. Let me move a little bit. I was afraid somebody might come and interrupt me, which for me is just, ugh. I demand privacy, and, you know, the privacy I'm seeking cannot be found here. It's a public space. Anyway, the point is that nothing really changes. And so, you know, if you want to like make an argument about how you behave in the world, right? That people say if you behave in a certain way, that will change the outcome. But in a way, that's not true, right? Because even if you're kind to people, assholes will always be assholes, and they will be assholes to you. The rapist will rape, and the robber will rob, and the president will cheat, and the cheaters will cheat, the connivers will connive, the good people will do good things, and not even religion changes them, because everything is always the same, right? There are always a set of good guys, always a set of bad guys, always a set in between. There are always victims and perpetrators, and nothing ever changes, right? In your life, it's just the same crap over and over again in a different form, right? If you're not, even if you fix a problem, some other problem will come in its wake, right? That's a pretty obvious example, but that's why I use it. That if you make a lot of money, well, guess what? and eliminate certain problems that you might have had. Couldn't pay your bills, couldn't make rent. Guess what? Now you're gonna focus on that new lump on your back. Your back pain that's been killing you. Your loneliness. That you'll be lonely because you don't have anywhere to go. Because you don't have to go anywhere, so you just don't go anywhere. You might turn to drugs to increase your pleasure, because money doesn't give you pleasure anymore. And so it gets harder, and the more you engage in the pleasures, the harder it gets to secure them. And so that's another example of how your pain just transforms in a different way into something else, right? There's always a burning, right? I was listening to this documentary on Charles Bukowski. It's called the Charles Bukowski Tapes, which you can find on archive.org. 2 parts, where one interesting thing he said, which really got to me, which is that there's always a pain, there's always a burning, right? That's what he said, that no matter what you do, there's going to be some burning, something that will burn. You wake up, you go to the fridge to get something to eat, you burn. You do something else, you burn. There's no peace, there's no quietude, there's no rest. Because no matter what you do or don't do, there's always a burning, there's always a sensation, something scratching at you, eating at you, burning you. And is that not true? That no matter what you do, there's always some kind of pain, some kind of misery, some kind of fuckery that just gets to you, no matter what you do or don't do, right? And so that's what I mean. And to make like a social argument about that, one good thing to talk about, interesting thing to talk about, is how technology has advanced, obviously, greatly in the since the the infamous Industrial Revolution 1 and 2. Are we at the third one yet, or the fourth? I don't even know. And you might say, okay, that's a good thing, because look at us now. We have plumbing, and we have shelter, a guaranteed security, shelter, food, connections to society, right? The society. I always return to this. The society. The Joker thing, right? And what else is there to talk about, really, other than the society? And you might say that's a good thing, but as the society gets more and more sophisticated and humane and clean, right? That's another thing Bukowski was talking about in the documentary, which I think you can definitely agree to, that you can definitely testify to in your own experience, that the life seems to dissipate, from the structures of society, that the juice is no longer there, right? If you walk down a dirty, grimy, rambunctious, problematic city street, like Skid Row, right, or something similar, right? There's a lot of life, but I guarantee you that if you take a stroll down some very clean, fancy city somewhere, or a street, a gated neighborhood, that sort of thing, you will see that life is no longer there. People don't talk to each other. There's no people playing dice on the floor, on the ground. There's no drunks screaming at each other and making having fun. And you might say, oh, this is a good thing, but where is the life? The life has been sucked out of the city. It has been sucked out of the street, and now you have nothing. And I think that's an experience that all of us have essentially had in the modern world, is that it's, even though it's almost a universal experience, right? That even though we seem to have progressed, it seems to also be a reflexive degeneration. The philosopher called Mikastatter, I think that's how you pronounce it, it's hard to pronounce, Carlo Mikastatter. A very interesting philosopher you should read. Persuasion and Rhetoric is his major work. Very interesting. It might sound very alien, but I guarantee you he's very human. His work is very approachable and human when you look at it deeply. He said that every progress of civilization is a regress for the individual, right? Or something along those lines. You know, that every progress for civilization, for society, is a regress for the individual. Or I don't think that's grammatically correct, so just probably put it in plural. You know, that, all the regresses, all the progresses of society are regresses for the individual, or degenerations. Depending on the grammar you want to use, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's that. And what he means by that is just very easy to see, right? Like, I don't think that thousands of years ago people needed, I don't think thousands of years ago people had flat foot, right? So they didn't need these arcs in their shoes, or I don't know what they're called. Not an arc, more like an arch. I don't know. You know, those things that lift up your feet. I have it too, but because I'm dumb, I don't remember any fucking word. So you're just gonna have to fill it in for me. Yeah, you know, like those arches, like those domes that put your feet up because they're flat, so it hurts you to walk. And I don't think people thousands of years ago had that problem, right? I don't think you saw a lot of people running around with back problems, with and you might say the one reason why is because they died early, but that's too easy a counter argument. It's not just that, you know. Even people, let's say 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 50 years ago, for fuck's sake, they used to be a lot more fit. I don't mean like more attractive, like in the British sense. I mean they used to be a lot more athletic. They had a youthful vigor about them. They were not overweight. They had less mental issues, right? And they could handle themselves. But it seems to me that the more we go forward, the more we go backward, in the sense that now that everything can be done in one tap on your phone, you don't have to do anything anymore. Even your banking, you can download a banking app, you know, one of these new banking apps, so you don't even have to actually physically show up at a bank and learn how to do paperwork and how just to communicate with a human being. You know, you don't have to do anything. You can just, everything is done for you. You don't have to go to the grocery store or the convenience store, because you can just order something. And so we get more and more retarded in a very real, not offensive sense, it's some real sense of the word. We are retarded, degenerated. And another good example of that is sex, or the lack of sex, right? That you're seeing charts nowadays of 30, 40, 50% of guys don't even get laid nowadays, young guys. I'm guessing it's probably a pretty high number these days. I'm guessing that like the average 22-year-old guy in the West is probably a virgin. Probably remain a virgin. And just imagine that misery. It sucks. It's not good. all of you, 95% of you know what I mean. That you're just masturbating, you're alone all the time. It really, really hurts. It sucks, as I know it, you probably know it. And it's very, very unnormal. And I don't even care if something is normal. I'm the last guy to care about if something is normal, but it just hurts. That's the sucky part about it. It just hurts. And you contrast it with how you see sex and romance all the time, everywhere these days. Everything is very sexualized, so you always have to be reminded of what you don't get, because that's the way we try to make up for it, compensate for it. But in making up for it, we're just hurting ourselves even more, right? Or like, you know, I'm talking like we're a collective, but we're really not. It's just that the media companies are jumping on the bandwagon because they know what sells. But we have the power to do things, but we choose not to do things, right? And you know, my conception of society, CF, the previous video. So what that means is, go and look at the previous video for reference. My conception of society is that it's an illusion. It doesn't exist, right? So when Margaret Thatcher said, you know, the UK Prime Minister, the neoliberal bitch that people apparently hate because she was one of the major frontrunners of right-wing kind of economic policy, is that society, there's no society, there's only individuals. And the funny thing is that even though I'm not a neoliberal, I agree. But that comes from my analysis of No Longer Human, which is my previous video entitled Explaining No Longer Human, which is a novel by the Japanese novelist Osamu Dazai. And in that novel, Dazai makes, or his MC, protagonist, comes to the Damascus moment, or this light bulb moment of enlightenment, that society might be an individual. And what he meant by that is that there's no society. The society there's no aggregate of people called a society. You can't find the substance of it. Is it here? Is it here? Is it on my neck? No. When you talk to somebody, where is society? Which words are society when somebody talks? You know, or is it their clothing? Is it the way they wear their hair? Or is it all that? No, it's really just an illusion. It's raining. I don't know if that's ASMR or annoying, but it's really just an illusion, because you can't really find the substance of this thing called society. And that led me down this reflection of along with the works of Mika Statter, who also critiques society severely, impugned it for the same reasons. You know, stuff that I've been talking about, a lot of it comes from him, my readings of him, that it led me down to this reflection that society doesn't exist. That you know, I don't know if No Longer Human really spells that out, but I do. I think that society is an illusion burning in the hearts of men. Right? I use men in the literary sense, literary sense. Nowadays you're probably not supposed to say it, but it sounds cool. Like just men. Men, of course, just means humans, mankind. That you know, it's an internal panopticon. That's another way I've conceived of it, is that, you know, this panopticon, this concept that was made up by Jeremy Bentham, the utilitarian philosopher. You know, this prison that you probably know about it, right? This prison that sees everybody. Every prisoner is always being seen by this tower that's in the middle of the circular object. this round, circular kind of object, and there's like a guard tower in the middle. And I've conceived of it more like a, wait, is the camera being fucked up because of the rain? I don't think so. Well, I don't know. It's a little shitty. Hopefully I didn't fuck up anything. Hold on. Give me a sec. It's getting a little harder to record because of the rain, but I'll persevere. I don't give a damn. Don't give a fuck. Maybe if I bend it like this. And so the way I've conceived of this guard tower is more like an eye. This giant eye that spins about the fulcrum. And so it sees everything all the time. It turns and turns and turns. And although, technically that might not work, because if it's an eye, you can see when it's looking and when it's not looking. But just pretend it's not true. Just pretend it's an eye that you never know when it's looking at you. Or it's more like an eye that's always looking at you, right? So you get the illusion that it's always looking. It's always spinning and it's always looking at you. And that's what society is. It's just a giant eye that always sees you. You never really know when it's looking, but you also know that it's always looking, right? So it kind of does work as an analogy. That you never know when it's looking, but you always feel like you're being watched, right? That's what it's like to be in society, especially in modern days. That it's very paranoid time, because you never really know who's watching and who is not watching, and what they might want and what they might not want, right? So we have all these so-called solutions like crypto, and that's supposed to be, and I'm repeating myself from previous videos, but I suppose I only have so many things to say. That's supposed to be a big fucking solution, like this idea of crypto and making everything available on your phone, so you don't even have to go to a bank. And why does that work as a solution, right? Because it just makes you feel very paranoid, right? When there's a physical structure there, you know that you can trust it because it's there, right? You can go there. But now that everything is digitalized, and you have all these banks that you can't even go into, you just sign up and there you go. And crypto, which is even worse, you have less trust and less trust and less trust, and somebody hacks your shit, you're done. And God be with you, right? Whoa, what's the expression that I've heard recently? Woe betide you. Because the customer support doesn't give a shit, and it's not gonna help, right? It's not like in a physical structure where the worker is face to face with you and they have to help. On these digital, I know you probably have experience with this. On these digital places, digital platforms, nobody gives a shit. They don't help you, right? A lot of the time, because they just don't need to. They don't need to. They can get away with it. They don't have to see you face to face. They just take the support ticket. They don't help, and that's it. You're done. You're fucked. You get hacked. You accidentally press the wrong button. Your shit gets stolen. You're done. You're fucked. Maybe there's something you can do, or maybe not. That's supposed to be the future, right? That be your own bank is one of the big credos of crypto. But I don't want to be my own bank. I want some decent functioning systems. I don't want to be my own bank. Every time I send a crypto transaction, I fear. I fear, don't you? When you send a bank transaction, a crypto transaction, when you buy anything at all, you always think, am I compromised? Am I hacked? Has somebody got my shit? Has somebody got my password? Has somebody got my phone? Don't you feel that way? So we're losing this centralization, which is supposed to be scary, even though we have never been more centralized. The decentralization is actually many different centralizations. And in a way, that's what I mean when I say that society doesn't exist, even though the illusion is always burning in your heart. Right? So if it doesn't exist, then how can it be there? Well, it can be there precisely because it's a paradox. So when you decentralize, you're not getting rid of this big, scary Uncle Tom government, because it gets replaced by all these little Uncle Toms. Wait, is it Uncle Tom? Wait, isn't that the... fuck, I really don't... You know what I mean. Because I know one of these uncles is like a black guy who like supports slavery, so I probably should get this right. I'm not American, forgive me. Wait, is government Uncle Tom? Or is it some other uncle? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know. You're gonna have to forgive me on that one. Oh fuck, it's Uncle Sam. Oh fuck, shit. Oh my god. Fuck. Yeah, I meant Uncle Sam, right? That's the government. Uncle Tom is like a black guy who's like super slavery. Good God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not American. Please. Anyway, yeah, so he gets replaced by this little Uncle Sams. That's fucked up. Talking is so hard. I guess I'm just dumb. And you know, that's what you hear by you know, if you listen to an intellectual like Chomsky, who says that, you know, if you replace government, decision making doesn't disappear. It simply places switches hand, right? Switches hand with these giant corporations who get to control everything. And that's what it is. That's what happens. So, and that's what I mean. That nothing ever changes, right? These giant corporations who take over everything, they become the little Uncle Sams. They become the watching eye. They become the Panopticon, the government. They're just little. They're just individual ones. But it doesn't matter because it still works, right? And that's what society is. Like, that society is this a million discrete bits of the same thing, right? One person here, another person there. Society is as many people in society. That's what society is, right? Because in every person burns this illusion that society is real. And of course it's not real. And I haven't really explained why it's not real, I suppose, because I did that in the previous video, I think, to some degree. But basically, like, what I mean is pretty simple. It's just that you can't really find the substance of it. That, you know, a police officer is only a police officer because we say so. You know what I mean? That everything is a social construct. In society, the whole point is that everything is a social construction. It's not real. And so you might say, okay, but the sum total is greater, like the totality is greater than the sum total. And so it makes something real, like society is a real thing because it functions in this totalizing way. But I would say that's an illusion, because you don't have to play by the rules if you don't want, right? That these are just rules that are made up by society, enforced by society, to give you the illusion that society is somehow objective or ultimate, indestructible, that it's a fort that you can break, and that gives the, you know, the assimilation, that gives you the you know, all the organs of society to assimilate you, right? To turn you into this little bitch, to do your job, go to school, get a job, pay your taxes to Uncle Sam, not Uncle Tom, and be a good little boy and reproduce and do all those shits that the conservatives want you to do for some fucking weird reason. They have, you know, for me it's just weird that maybe this is a little bit unsophisticated and simple and terse, but for me, conservatives are really creepy motherfuckers. Like, they have this little project that society needs to exist for some reason. You need to reproduce, and somehow that's a good thing, you know. And for me, why is that a good thing? Like, why do we need to keep this project going called society? What's the point of having it? What's the point of having a kid just so the kid can go through the motions and do the same things that we did, when the whole thing is just based on a bunch of illusions that don't even mean anything in an objective way, that are just imposed on you? And again, then comes the important part, that it imposes a lot of pain and suffering, right? When you live in society, you have to suffer constantly. And if you had been not born, you wouldn't need to. And that's the antinatalism. But to me, that just seems, why does it have to have a name? Like, it's so obvious. Like, it's not just antinatalism. It's just this idea that we're gonna make this little clay, like we're gonna play Play-Doh with people, right? We're gonna take these hunks of clay and we're gonna make little creatures out of them, and we're gonna make them do little tricks, and give them bones as little snacks as reward, and beat the shit out of them as punishment. And that's all that society amounts to, is reward and punishment, reward and punishment. And what's the point of making more creatures just so they can be rewarded and punished in society? What's the point of making this fucking thing go over and over and over again? Especially when you look at all these stupid injustices, the victims of the gutter, those who don't make it in society have to suffer in society, who become victims of bullying and abuse and rape and mental illness. Why do they need to fucking... Why were we forced to participate in this mess? What's the fundamental justification other than we think it's cool, we think it's fun, we think it's great? You think, but what do you accomplish by thinking? You know? What can you point to as a fundamental achievement of all this plague? Sorry. My nose is all fucked up. Yeah, it's probably disgusting. But then I can talk better. I just don't see the point of it. And it just gets worse and it gets worse. So that, you know, we're living in times where we're barely even living. And these fucking conservatives are still saying, keep doing it, keep doing it. They don't want to solve the problems that are created by society, right? They just want to push it to the side and pretend they don't exist. As if that will solve it. Just throw some more capital to it and that's gonna solve it. It's not fucking solving it, you stupid motherfuckers. Because they think that things can change. Right? For them, society is moving somewhere, and for them it's always moving in the wrong direction because they're conservatives. They want to go back to the past. And the progressives think society can move into to somewhere good in the future. We know that's not true. We know that every step forward is a step backward. You know, again, flatfoot didn't used to exist. The 40 or 50% virginity rate didn't used to exist. Who knows what, 40, 50%, I don't even know. Very high rates of depression, suicide, mental illness didn't used to exist. All the alienation, the boredom, the existential anxiety that's so prevalent in Gen Z, and God knows the future generations are probably going to have it worse. You know, woe betide them too. They're going to need a lot of prayer. Even if they're atheists, they'll need to believe in God to survive that shit. I mean, what's coming is just incredibly bad, right? I mean, even if you just look at something like YouTube comment sections, sorry, I have to keep doing that. You just look at YouTube comment sections. Like, you know that YouTube comment sections nowadays, unless it's a small channel, the comments are retarded. They don't mean anything. Every comment is a copy paste of another comment. And when you look at YouTubers in general, there's too many of them. Right? That's why people don't finish YouTube videos anymore. They just watch 1 second of it. Because they're so fucking hooked on cocaine and meth. You know, the equivalents of these things almost. That they don't have any patience. They click on one video they know they're not gonna watch. Why the fuck are you clicking on my videos if you're just gonna click away 1 second later? Are you stupid? And I'm being theatrical because I do it I do it too. Like, I'm not picking on you. Especially not you if you're watching this, because you finish like 25 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. But like, people are so pointless nowadays. Like, there's too many content producers, too many people who watch this stuff. Because there's so many of them, they don't even watch the stuff. Right? Like, back in the day when you clicked on a YouTube video, you'd watch it, right? Like, if you're old enough, if you remember how you used to consume YouTube in 2012 or 2010 or 2008, you used to watch all the videos that you clicked on, right? You clicked with purpose, didn't you? Nowadays, what do? You go on one video, then you go on another, then you go on another, and you probably finish like 10% of them, or 5% of them, right? I'm right, right? There's too many viewers. The viewers don't want to watch most content that's put out there, so they're useless. And the content producers, most of them are also useless because most of them are redundant. Even if their content is being consumed, it's shit. You could go to the other guy and you could watch the exact same thing with like 5 differences. So, you know, you watch these YouTubers who do rants, and most of them are exactly the fucking same. It's one guy, some depressed asshole. He opens the camera, he says, "Guys, this is why I'm an anti-natalist. I hate life. I read David Benatar. I hate life. Alright guys, bye." How many of these have you fucking seen? How many of the same fucking person have you seen? They have no character, no personality, they're dumb, they don't know anything. So the viewers are useless and the YouTubers are useless. Everybody is fucking useless. There's too many of you motherfuckers. And again, I'm just expressing my anger. I'm not trying to be mean to you specifically, viewer. I'm just expressing my anger to the void. Understand? But you know, people say overpopulation is not a problem. Well, in my opinion, it is a problem in the sense that people are just redundant. There's too many of these people. And everybody is just the fucking same. I don't know if it used to be different. I'm guessing it didn't used to be different even back then. People were always pretty much the same because the same society creates the same kind of people. And the same circumstances in general create the same kind of people. Slightly different, of course, sometimes, but generally they're the same. For just cause and effect reasons. But the difference now is that there's too many of them and they congregate in the same place all the time, right? They convene at the same place and they drink they eat from the manger, right? They eat the slop, they consume the slop, the congregation of slop. You know, at the congregation of slop, they consume the slop. And that's what life is nowadays. Nobody gets laid. Nobody does anything. Nobody kicks a football anymore. They just sit at home, watch other people live. Everybody's dumb. Everybody's depressed. Everybody's ignorant, stupid. They can't read. They can't type anything. They can't make anything. But we are led to, you know, just look at the famous people on YouTube. Back in the day, people used to go to theaters. They used to read. Nowadays, you watch Kai Cenat or one of these assholes. Dumb motherfuckers. Very, very dumb motherfuckers. Very stupid. And some of them at least are funny. I think IShowSpeed is particularly funny and interesting, even with all his problems, but most of them are boring and stupid and pointless. And so this is the era we're living in, an era of slop. And I suppose now would be the time to maybe zoom out. That's not what I meant. Zoom out in the sense that to look at more philosophical or objective things, more like political things maybe. And on a more political scale, I would say that things are only gonna get worse. Newsflash, it's very consistent, right? Because you just look at how the population has increased, and that's another argument I'm going to repeat again because I find it important, and I have nothing else to say. That the population has increased, I mean globally has increased. We have now, I think, 8 billion people. I think we have crossed that number a while ago, I think. And when you combine that growth with the growth of technology, science, you get the possibility of an increase in death, genocide, murder, hate, racism, all that kind of stuff, right? Because the more people you have on the planet, the more possible victims there are. And the more technology you have and the more powerful the technology, the bigger the circumference of the destruction. And so if you combine these variables of more population, an increase in population on the global scale, the increase in technology, the power, the potency of the technology, what you get when you combine those two things is an increase in danger and an increase in, I would say pretty likely, if not certain, war, genocide, all that kind of stuff. So World War II, a lot of victims in World War II. But imagine the victim count in World War III. 100 years ago, a lot less people. Technology a lot worse. Right? World War I, no atomic bomb. World War II, atomic bomb. World War III, atomic bomb, probably a bunch of new biochemical weapons, AI, new ways of torturing people, bigger ways of torturing people, and more people to torture. Right? So I'm guessing that as these Elon Musk types who develop their wonderful brain chips. And by the way, isn't it funny that these right-wing lunatics love Elon Musk, even though he's the one who wants to shove your brain chips in people's brains, implant these brain chips in people. But the guys that we're supposed to hate on the right wing are only liberals, right? Elon Musk is a good guy because he posted some memes on Twitter, so he's okay. People are so dumb, they're so fucking stupid. People are all, you can't trust the capitalists. They're all soulless pigs, including me. Insofar as I'm a capitalist, I'm a soulless pig. If I have some soul, it's going to be to my detriment on the market, right? So, for example, if you're a landlord, if you're too nice with your tenants, you give them too much leeway or the pushover, well, guess what? They're just gonna keep screwing you. They're not gonna keep paying their rent. They're gonna not pay rent in time. If you don't vet them properly, if you say, so you guys can come, it's okay. You guys need a place, okay, come. But if you don't vet them properly, if you don't say, I demand a college degree, I demand a stable job making, you know, 6 figures or whatever, because you feel sorry for them, you know, then guess what? They're probably gonna suck. So, and they have their reasons, but you have to be a monster, right? You have to sell at the top and let the losers hold the bag. Crypto, stocks, anything else. Pump it and then dump it. That's the system we're living in. A pump and dump system. You hike up, you sell, others lose. You know, no solution has been found to any of these problems. No matter where you go left, you go right, you go up, you go down, you go side, you go like this, you know, crossways, whatever the word for that is, diametrically, doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. It's the same map. It's the same geographical space. You can never escape it because nothing ever changes. You clean up the streets, everything becomes boring. You don't clean up the streets, people are shooting up heroin on the stairs. You decentralize because you don't like big government. Now you're being governed by tiny little capitalists everywhere who act in lieu of the government now. You know, you don't have faith, you don't have churches, you don't have God. There will be new gods made, new churches made, new communities of believers made. It's something that might well be much worse than Catholicism. Catholicism, you know, Catholics. Is that how you? Well, I just say Christianity. You ain't seen nothing yet, I would say. There will come a time, I think, when we'll be sorry that we were once angry at, you know, the old ways. Okay, there are some bigoted Christians. You have to go to the bank. You know, nothing is comfortable because you have to do things all the time. I think one day, maybe even now, many of us will want to harken back to those times. And you know, we have this idiom in Hungary, in Hungarian, that, you know, we'll cry back those times. We'll cry back those times. Visszasírjuk azokat az időket. We'll cry back those times when everything was so simple and nice. Not nice, but simple, right? Because with the rise of complexity, the rise of danger also rises. Right, okay, so it's redundant. With the rise of complexity, danger also rises. The more complex you make something, the more variegated you make the possibilities of destruction, right? So if you have, I don't know how to, have to come up with something. If you have a stick, and, you know, the stick has like one branch, you can use that branch to do something with it, right? But if the stick has 4 branches, you can now use 4 things. You can now do 4 different things at the same time. Maybe you poke 4 different eyes out with those 4 little branches on the stick. You know what I mean? That's just a stupid example, but you, or, you know, if you're a programmer, if you're a software engineer, you know, complexity is bad. You want to reduce complexity. You want to make code that's efficient, that you can run on 1 iteration or 2 or 3 instead of 7 or 8 or 10. You don't want to make the code redundant. You want to make a nice, clean piece of code where, you know, I don't know how to metaphor it exactly because it's been a while since I coded and I sucked at it too. But you don't want to make a bunch of if-else statements. If you don't have to, you'll not branch into every possibility. You know, you just say if, else, okay, maybe another one. Like maybe you have an if-else and then maybe a nested one. But you don't go if-else, 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 if-else. because it will take forever for the fucking function to run. Right? That much I know. And that also applies, I think, in reality, in social reality, let's say, that the more complex you make things, the more dangerous they get. And I think history is a perfect teacher for that. I have a video, the most prominent, useful video for this is the one I made that's called, "Is the future pinker, or shall we, or shall the dumb inherit the earth?" Which is more like an early video, so I think my English wasn't so good back then. I made that like a year and a half ago, I think. A little, yeah, almost. But in that video, I basically respond to Steven Pinker's arguments at the end of it, the other later half, where he basically says humanity has progressed. Another thing I'm rehashing, because you look at the decline of violence and all that kind of bullshit. But I made the argument that instead of looking at the relative number or the relative value, we should look at the absolute value, right? So even though expressed in terms of percentage, there is less violence, right? Not 50% of people get raped, let's say. The number is, let's say, 10. This is just an example. Maybe starvation used to be at 50%, malnutrition used to be at 50%. Let's say now it's at 25%. Blindness because of lack of vitamin C or whatever, etc., etc., etc. But the problem with that, again, is that nothing ever really changes. And here this applies especially because he uses this very very purposefully uses the relative value over the absolute one. And in this little mathematical sleight of hand is what I would call it, he gets to reach the conclusion, which is really his premise, that the world is better now, that there's less violence now, less bad things in the world now, which is, I think, his general thesis. There's less violence, maybe less hunger, less. I don't know exactly what he's saying, because I seems to be saying multiple things. But forget it. It's just, don't get lost in the little details. Don't miss the forest for the trees. The point is that he gets to reach this conclusion, which is really his premise, by just simply using the relative value over the absolute one. But if you look at the absolute one, of course, more slaves than ever before. I'm sure there are more women who are being raped today than 250 years ago, or let's say maybe not, but the more you go back, the more likely it is, right? I know that more people are being tortured now than 1,000 years ago. I know that more women are being raped today than 1,000 years ago, just because there's so many more of them. And that's reality, because nothing ever really changes. Steven Pinker can come in here and he can pretend things are better now because I can play abstract games of abstraction, games of mathematics, games of statistics, and I can pretend away the problems. And I can pretend I have the solutions, because liberalism will come and save us all. They will save us from the evil right, save us from the evil left. Liberalism all the way. And even though more slaves than ever before, more of anything than ever before. And that's not a trivial statement. They will make you want to think it's a trivial statement. It's not a trivial statement. The fact that there's more pain and suffering in human societies than ever before is not a trivial statement. And no liberalism will save you from that. As technology certainly won't save you from that. Technology will only make things worse. Science and technology will only make things worse. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences. Yes, the Unabomber, when he said that, was right. And it's just a fact. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. And he's not the first and not the last to say that. He doesn't own that statement. Well, he might own the statement, doesn't own the fact underlying it. Philosophers before him have said it. Mika Statter said it before him. I have said it. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not nobody, but people have said it. Anybody with any kind of brain has said it. The more technology you have, more science you have, the more destruction and pain and misery you have on a cumulative level, in the sense that when you add it up, it gets to be more. And so when I say nothing ever changes, I just mean that maybe there are some absolute differences here and there. They crop up. Of course, they crop up. But what I'm trying to say is that if you want to solve a problem, you won't solve it. You just transform it to something else. You defer it to something else. Okay? So you want to make it easier for people to walk? Guess what? They're going to walk... well, maybe it's not a good example. If you want to make it easier for people to travel, guess what? They're going to walk less. They won't walk. Walking is too boring. They'll be hooked on fast transportation, fast delivery, and fast food. Eating from the slop, from the manger, you know, from the whatever the fuck the places where the pigs eat, you know, that it's gonna get worse and worse, and we've seen it get worse and worse. Sex has been replaced by masturbation, and then the way the market, which is really the market that tries to solve it, is by pushing sex back into our face. But of course, that's a sorry excuse of a solution. Doesn't work. Doesn't make us happy that we get to see it. We want to do it. It will never make us happy. The real substance of it will always be missing unless we do it. The sexual revolution, which is okay, fine. Fuck as many people as you want in as many positions as you want. I don't care. I have none of this normal morality at all. I don't care. I have my own morality, but I don't care. Fuck as many people as you want. Male, female. I don't care. But it's so obvious that that's just part of the problem, not the part of the solution. That, okay, I'm depressed, and I've seen this with somebody I used to know. Don't sing the song. Somebody that I used to know, that she was miserable and she used fucking to fill herself up in a kind of literal way. But of course, I don't think that worked. And even though I yearn for it, I don't think it will work for me either. Maybe it would do something, but it's not better than the real thing of one person doing it with one person because of love. And that's precisely what we're not getting back. But then again, you might say, oh, okay, so now you're a conservative. And I say, no. I'm just saying that there are certain things like love, which is so good, we're not getting anymore. But, you know, if it seems like I'm going nowhere, it's because I'm going nowhere. Why do you think there's a solution? I'm not a guru. I'm not telling you solutions. I'm not giving you anything. I'm just talking because I'm talking because I want to talk. I want to talk because I'm talking, and I'm talking because I want to talk. Not because I'm going somewhere or because I have a solution for you. There are some good things about conservatism, some good things about liberalism, but each has bad things, and they will not solve the fundamental problems because nothing will ever change. That would be my ultimate statement. You can't solve the rapes, the tortures, the bullies, the loneliness, the suicides, the drugs. If you solve it, then it will crop up in some other way, which is fundamentally the same thing. I'm lonely, I want, I need. You will not solve that problem because it's insoluble, insurmountable. It's impeccably imperfect. That's what life is, impeccably imperfect. And so here we are, being watched by the internal Panopticon all the time, wanting to unload society's cumulative weight in somebody's bosom that we can't have. That's a general statement now. And of course the weight is the weight of a thing that doesn't exist. It's paradoxical. There's one thing that I came up on when I was saying something. I forget everything. I suppose I just keep going, see where we'll end up. But I wish I had more to say. I wish I had a solution for you. I wish I had something for you. But I really don't. Maybe one thing I had in mind was pensions, you know. A lot of us are very precarious nowadays. We don't have stable incomes, we don't have stable jobs. Me being one of them. I'm fine, but I don't have a stable jobs that would generate a pension. And you know, society furnishes us with these promises, what you might call IOUs, right? Like a pension. And what is a pension but an extortion of the present for the future? It's a demand saying, go to work, bitch, because one day you'll be old and decrepit. Partly because society will fuck you up. You'll be decrepit pretty quickly. And so you'll need somebody to take care of you. So basically just holding a gun to your head. That's what a pension is. Pension is not a good thing. A pension is just holding a gun to your hand and saying, go to work, bitch, or else. Even if you can make a living now, you don't have any pension fund, guess what? They're just not gonna give you money when you're old. I guess they just leave you rot. I don't know. Maybe throw you in some piece of shit place somewhere. Some slop. What it amounts to, it's a quote from No Longer Human, is that those who get thrown into insane asylums are crazy and those who don't are not. Right? That sounds like a very simple statement, but it's a very profound statement. You know, my way of rephrasing that is, what is a criminal but somebody who disagrees with society, right? You know, society has never hung a criminal for something he did that they agreed with, right? I doubt that has ever happened. Might have because of some legal loophole, but usually they hung people because not because he did something that's wrong. They hang him because he simply disagrees with them. Because society doesn't have any, like, they hang him even no matter how bad the standards of society is, right? And so if you think, oh no, my society is good, you might say that in some way, but your society, you have to understand, your society doesn't have any standards. So if your society is kind of a decent society now, you have to understand that it's not decent because it wants to be. It can, the lightest puff can turn it into dust. You know, the Weimar Republic can turn into Nazi Germany or whatever the fuck you wanna. Any day, any time, a light little puff, a stream of you know, a northbound wind of Nazi thought can come in and wreck everything down, just like that. It doesn't last. You have no evidence that it lasts, that it means anything to anyone. You now happen to live in a society that's probably kind of liberal. But it's not liberal because it wants to be, because it agrees with liberalism. It's liberal because those are the circumstances that happen to be conducive to its function today. So you might call that materialism. Fine, I don't care. Call that Marxism if you like. It's just a fact. It doesn't have any principles. So that's another thing I have mentioned. I think that was in the video called There was a knock from down below, something like that. But there was a knock from down below, I think. I think that might have been the title. In which I say, among other things, that society doesn't have any standards because it's utilitarian. And what I mean by that is that it only does what is conducive to its present function, right? It doesn't do A because it has deemed A as a good thing. It has deemed A a good thing because it works for it, right? So it's kind of backwards. The fact that society is utilitarian means it doesn't have any principles. It doesn't have any fundamental ethics, fundamental 10 commandments or something, because they're always susceptible to change by any northbound wind that might come and blow it all up, blow it all down, you know, the bad wolf, big bad wolf. And have we not seen that these days? Society does whatever it does because it has seen that it's useful. The criterion is consent. It's a line from Mikael Statter. The only thing it needs is your consent, and then it does whatever it does because it's useful. And it uses you as a ladder. As a ladder to get where it wants to go. As a scaffolding to get where it wants to go. You are the human grease that turns the cogs of the social machine. You are the little elves. And you do it because you're afraid of the consequences if you don't do it. You have been shafted, your hands have been tied, you have been fettered to the present contingency, and you do it because you're afraid that if you don't do it, you'll be fucked in the ass. You don't do it because you're moral. That's why I hate these fucking people who try to like besmirch people who don't work, like jobless people, homeless people, that sort of people, as if they do what they do because they're moral. But we know it's just virtue signaling. They do what they do because they're afraid of the consequences of not doing it. And so I don't want to hear it from anybody, right? Like these two guys came in who were like those workers. They were fixing something about the gutter, something about the gutter. Like sewage. And they were talking amongst themselves, and I eavesdropped. I was just there. I heard it. They were like, these people, they're freeloaders. And he looked up at me and said, I'm not talking about, like, he wanted to say he's not talking about me. He was talking about some people down the street. He was like grumbling, like, oh, these are freeloaders. They probably didn't have a job while these guys were down in the gutter. And that's so obviously just jealousy. Like, you're just jealous. Just stop pretending you have some moral fucking guidance that makes you get down in the gutter. You do it because you're afraid that if you don't do it, you'll starve to death. So save me, the virtue signaling. Save me, the spitting. I don't need to hear it. You're just all pussies. Most of you work, 99% of you work because you're pussies. You're afraid of the consequences of not doing it. You don't have the bravery to drop out and do what you want. You don't have the bravery to take a risk because you're all been trained to be pussies by training. You have been pressed by society's cumulative press, which is at the same time the hugging hands, the bosom that pretends to care about you even though it just wants to use you up. Even if it's nice, even if it has some humanistic tendencies, it still only cares about taking care of itself. Might use some humanistic methods to do that. It might approve of gay marriage, might do this, might do that. It doesn't matter. Never presume they do it because they think it's right. That's not how it works. They do it because it happens to work right now for the purposes they want to accomplish now. You can't trust the state. You certainly can't trust capitalists. You can't even trust me. But of all the people that you can trust, the types of people, I would be among the type that you could probably be the most trustful of, because I essentially have nothing to sell you. A George Carlin, a Charles Bukowski, outsiders, pessimists, nihilists, whatever you want to call it, or make it. Of course, these are slightly different things. I would say I basically don't have any recognizable morals. I'm an individualist, but even that doesn't work, because individualism also just turns into religion. So, you know, if you assert a kind of relativism, it just becomes a determinism, right? I'm a relativist. Okay, so that means you do believe in a deterministic thing called relativism, right? You want to escape this binding, this binding nominalism, but you just, that's the right word. That you want to escape this binding absolutism, but you just end up back in the mouth of the bear. You know, you circle right back. That's why I don't even trust things like Stoicism, that Mikael Statter also critiqued, because for the Stoic, he said, there has to be something to struggle against. Right? So the Stoic is not really free, because his freedom from the thing itself is already binding to the thing itself. Right? So when you assert, when you presume or posit, oh my God, it's getting wet. My fucking headset. When you posit a kind of relativism or nihilism, you just get back to some kind of absolute thing, which is the positing of this thing that exists fundamentally. You know, this nihilism or this relativism, this Stoicism. It's just another religion. It's just another way to try to reify the contingency of life, you know. So you try to run away from structures, you try to run away from society, try to run away from ideologies, but you always invariably fall back into their hands. But the moment you try to speak about it and theorize about it, right, you can't escape. The only way you can escape is by shutting up. You know, there's no escape from anything at all. That's what Bukowski said. Everything is a constant burning sensation. Everything is always burns, everything always craves. No matter where you go, what you do, what you don't do, there's always something fucking with you. Always something you have to run away from, always something that's coming to get you. Even if you pretend that you don't care about it, even if you pretend that you care for nothing, even if you pretend that you're a stoic who doesn't suffer a thing, who doesn't need anything to live, you always need something. You always are a slave to something. Even if you kill yourself, you're a slave to life and a slave to death. Constant slavery, constant movement. You can't depart the path that goes on forever. Right? I'm sorry if this sounds difficult or sounds crazy, but if you understand it, then I'm sorry and I congratulate you that you came this far. Because what the shit I'm talking about, it has to be understood personally. If you don't get it, okay, fine. But don't just pretend like none of this means anything just because you don't get it. I'm just looking for an escape hatch. Look. Wonder if I can make like a pretty... I'm trying to reproduce what I'm seeing. I'm just looking up in the rain, trying to find an escape hatch. But there is no escape hatch. That's the tragic conclusion that I've come to. The tragic conclusion that some authors have come to, like Dazai or Mikkelstatter or Bukowski, who all basically said there's no escape. Nothing ever changes. It's always the same crap over and over again, the flow of things. They change, but they always flow at the same time. It's Heraclitus and Parmenides combined. Something like that. Complicated, I don't know. No doubt some of this stuff I'm just pulling out of my ass, but it's so very difficult to get. So, you know, I'm not pretending to get it. I'm getting some of it, and I'm surely not getting some of it, right? But whatever, you understand, you understand. And maybe next time I try to, if you insist, I'll make some notes and try to make stuff more concise. But I'm not sure you can make it more concise, because I'm basically just saying the same thing in 10,000 different ways. So what else is there to talk about? Anything new? One of the actors from Parasite, which is one of my favorite movies. I'm not a big movie watcher, but that movie really got to me. He has killed himself because apparently I haven't even read much into it, but there was some supposed drug trouble, which might have been, the whole thing might have been made up. I don't know. I heard some whispers here and there, but I'm not gonna comment on it too much because I don't know about it. But the guy did kill himself, and that just sort of got to me. Because it reminds me of society's weight. Society gets to you, and even though you're handsome, even though you're rich, there's no escape from anything at all. It's all a head game. It's all in the attitude. And that guy was in a movie that shat all over society, and he couldn't detach himself from the weight of it. Or that might have been because he was facing jail time, even, I don't know. But maybe I would kill myself too if I faced that kind of threat. But it's kind of fucked up how he was in this movie, starring in this movie about how shitty society is and how unjust it is. And then he just gets killed by society, essentially. As far as I know, he died because of society. And that's just sad. And I've seen these people who have committed suicide on live stream, you know. And it just makes me like, fuck. There really was no other way for them, I suppose. Like, I always think, like, you know, over the sense that I have that, can we not just like somehow get together and understand each other? Is it impossible? Is there no way for the suicidal person to blow his head off on a live stream? Is there no way to save him? No way to say the right words in the right order to make him reconsider it? Couldn't he watch Chainsaw Man? Maybe Chainsaw Man could have helped, listening to the banger of an OP. They did not want to hear it anymore. This was, you know, like nothing was enough. You know, and I'm not blaming, I'm just saying, isn't there something that can be done to save these people? Or shouldn't we do it? We shouldn't do it at all. Maybe they're right. You know. I always think there's something somewhere that you can grasp There's this unmovable, there's this thing that I'm looking for that I don't get, right? I don't even know if there's a word for it because you couldn't describe. Mikkelstadt called it persuasion. Thing you can never get. What keeps you going? The lack, the will, the insatiable will. Maybe that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm thinking about, and I'm being fooled. Is there really no paradise? I think there might be paradise for a couple of seconds. There are moments of paradise when you really can establish a connection with somebody, a real laughter. So it reminds me of when I had this girlfriend, I suppose. She was kind of a girlfriend at the time. And we had this moment where she would just laugh like a child, and it reminded me, you know, that's what I mean. That there are these moments sometimes, and they get increasingly sparse as you grow older. But there are these moments where everything disappears and there's just pure joy for a couple of seconds. So when I saw her laugh, with a childish laugh, I think she was like on the floor somewhere, just laughing, because, I don't know, we're laughing about some silly joke. And that's what I mean, that there are these moments that you can get. And I just saw, like, she looked like a child. Like, it just made me feel like all her walls came down and she was like a child, and that was her real self. And that self got ruined over time, piled on a bunch of shit over time. Trauma, a bunch of pain, stupid bullshit that she had to pretend to care about, right? You know, you're not allowed to walk down the street as a woman because you might get molested. And this bullshit that she had to put on all these walls to survive. And all those walls, they're all bullshit in the sense that they don't stand for anything. They just protection against bullshit that shouldn't even be there. And that's what we need to get rid of, but I don't think we're getting rid of any of that shit anytime soon. I don't think we'll ever get rid of the walls that we need to put up will never break down. That's what I'd say. Have I rambled enough? Was it bad enough? Was it painful enough? Because I feel like there's some other layer of depth I could probably go to, but I need to face reality and stand up. It's not good. I have nowhere to go, nothing to do. An exaggeration, but basically true. There's some bug in my headset. Check this guy out. See this? Wait. Am I showing you the right one? Right, whatever. Check this guy out. Some like tiny snail, something. Am I gonna get an infection if I put this on now? I don't care, I'm already half deaf from all the music I listen to. Yeah, guys. It's all so fucked. Is there anything else? Was this original enough, do you think? Was this worth the bother? Because I think, like I said in the beginning, most videos are just redundant. The people in them are boring, they say the same boring shit. They have no personality, you know. And I'm hoping to create something that breaks out of that shit. That makes something that's somehow new, weird, strange, avant-garde. But at the end of the day, I'm just putting words together in certain orders. Because they've been imprinted on me because I watched certain YouTube videos and read certain books. Is that anything new at all? Oh, of course not. But it's about repeating the message in a way that's useful and fun. And new, and not just the same fucking guy talking about the same shit in the same way over and over again. Most YouTubers are so boring. Hey guys, so yeah, I hate life. Anyway, I hate my parents because they gave birth to me. Anyway, guys, leave a comment, and then they get like 10,000 views, and I get nothing. I guess I'm kind of bitter. But fuck, the people who deserve. I don't even want the views because then I would get too much attention. Sorry, I don't want attention. I'm using this tripod. It looks like a dildo. You can record yourself with it, and then you can record yourself fucking yourself with it. It's not bad. Funny. But everything needs to end at some point, so I suppose I'll wrap this up and see in the future, or in future as the British say, if I can't come up with something new, something interesting, something more concise and precise than this crap. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think about anything at all. Recommend books if you're there at all. Tell me what I should watch or read that might do anything at all. Anything. Alright, I guess it's high time that we ended this. Tell me how awful it was, how great it was, and then come see me after class. In a Japanese porn kind of way. Alright. Bye. I can't stop.